My sister's pregnant, but she doesn't know who the baby's father is, and she still plans to marry the man she's been lying to for the past 2 years. Should I stay silent? I never thought I'd be the one to expose my own sister. We grew up together, shared everything, from our first dress to our first heartbreaks. She used to be the one I called my closest of all my loved ones. And yet, all it took was one moment, seeing her standing outside a hotel with a man who wasn't her fiance, for all that trust to begin crumbling. At the time, I tried to calm myself. Maybe he was a work partner, an old friend, or just a coincidence. I didn't want to jump to conclusions about someone I had trusted my whole life, but it didn't stop there. A few weeks later, during a family dinner, I overheard shouting from the living room. When I walked in, I saw her and her fiancé arguing intensely. He stormed out, his face twisted in anger. I asked her what happened. At first, she brushed it off as a misunderstanding, said he was jealous because she had brunch with a male friend. I looked her straight in the eyes, the kind of look we'd always used to read each other since we were kids. A look that said, I know you're lying. And in that moment, like a thin mask slipping off, she let out a confession I never thought I'd hear. I've been seeing someone else, but it's just for fun. Nothing serious. I froze. My heart sank like a stone. Not just because of what she did, but because of how she said it. Cold, indifferent. Like she was talking about a spontaneous weekend getaway, not a 2-year-long betrayal with none other than her fiance's best friend, the groomsmen in their upcoming wedding. I was so furious I had to walk away from the table. When I came back, I said just one sentence. Either you tell him, or I will. She looked at me like I had betrayed her, not the other way around. But I didn't care. I had seen what betrayal did to my father after my mom cheated. I knew what it was like to watch someone drown in lies while being forced to smile through it. Since I was 13, I promised myself I would never stay silent in the face of betrayal. Not again. Not ever. And my sister reluctantly nodded. She promised she'd come clean to her fiancé before the wedding. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But it turns out I was too naive. That promise? It was just the next layer of cover, hiding an even darker truth. A broken promise can destroy a relationship, but a forgotten promise, one that's intentionally ignored, is far more cruel. I had thought that after our conversation that day, my sister would finally come to her senses, that she'd do the right thing even if it was late. But a week passed. Not a single word. Not the slightest sign of remorse. And then came the rehearsal dinner. The moment I realized that everything was not just a performance. And I was the only one in the audience who could see the backdrop falling apart. The event was held at a fancy restaurant, sparkling lights above, laughter echoing from every corner. My sister looked radiant in a simple white dress, no wrinkles, no trace of guilt. Her fiancé stood proudly by her side, laughing, chatting, completely unaware. And the other man, the groomsman, the one she had been cheating with for the past 2 years, was right there among the closest circle, sitting beside the groom, drinking, joking, playing the perfect brother-in-law. I felt a lump forming in my throat, as if someone had shoved a stone into my chest, silent, cold, and crushing. I stepped outside to breathe. It was a mild spring night, the breeze gentle, but my heart was in chaos. My sister followed. And the moment the restaurant door closed behind her, I asked just one question. You didn't tell him, did you? She said nothing. Avoided my eyes. I didn't need her to say it. The promise was already dead. And I knew I couldn't wait another second. If I stayed silent, I'd become complicit, an accessory to a marriage built on lies. After the party, once everyone had left, I pulled the groom aside. My heart was pounding. My hands were ice. But my voice? Steady. I'm sorry to be the one to say this, I began. But you need to know, my sister's been having an affair for the past 2 years with your groomsman. He stood there, frozen. The wine glass in his hand trembled. His eyes widened, stripped of all joy. And right then, I saw it. The very first shards of heartbreak breaking loose inside him. The silence was unbearable. Then he turned and walked away. Not a word. I had no idea what he would do next. But I knew one thing. I had done what needed to be done. The next day, hell broke loose. My sister called, voice burning with rage. Why would you do this? We're sisters. You're supposed to protect me, not destroy me. I simply said, you destroyed yourself. I just stopped others from getting hurt with you. Then came my mom. Not to check on me, not to ask how I was, but to scold me. She called me ungrateful, a traitor, a coward who chose right and wrong over family. Every call felt like a fresh wound. But I didn't bleed, because I'd become numb to their lies long ago. Then my sister offered a solution. If you really love me, you'll tell him you made a mistake. Take it back. I nearly laughed. After everything, what she wanted wasn't forgiveness. She wanted a free pass to keep walking her path of deceit. I couldn't. And I wouldn't. Because some secrets, when left unspoken, don't just hurt one person. They ruin everyone who ever believed in a love that was never real. I used to think that telling the truth about my sister would be the hardest thing I'd ever do. But I was wrong. Turns out what hurts even more is realizing that someone who once loved you, who once proposed to you, was part of the web of lies from the very beginning. After that chaotic night, I tried to distance myself from all the drama. I didn't answer my mom's calls, didn't reply to my sister's texts. I just needed a little peace to breathe. But peace is a luxury in a family built on secrets. 2 days later, I got a message from him, my ex, who also happens to be the groom's older brother. We used to love each other deeply, even planned to get married. But that year, he admitted to cheating. I didn't need to know with whom. The moment he said the words, I packed my things and walked away, leaving every beautiful memory behind. We stayed in touch, maturely, respectfully. After all, with my sister marrying his brother, we both thought, we don't need to get back together, but at the very least, we can be kind to each other. I believed that. So when I saw his message, what you told my brother, it's a mess. We need to talk. I agreed, because I still believed that between him and me, there was at least one thing left. The truth. We got on a video call. His face looked different. No longer that careless guy from before. I smiled faintly, trying to ease the tension. Don't tell me. You slept with my sister too? He went silent. No smile. No denial. Time froze. It felt like all the air was sucked out of my lungs. My entire body went cold. You're joking, right? I stammered. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't think you needed to know. Back then, everything was a mess. So that night, when he confessed he had cheated, it was with my sister. My mind exploded. The betrayal came not just from the man I once loved, but from the very sister I had defended all my life. I was shaking when I asked, and now? Are you two still involved? He shook his head. No, that ended a long time ago. I know I was wrong. But how could I believe him? After everything, his words felt weightless, like wind slipping past. I'd lost all trust. And the most painful part? I didn't even know who I had been in that story. A lover, a joke, a pawn used by both to cover up their guilt. Before I could process it all, he added, "There's something else. You need to know." I closed my eyes. I didn't want to hear more, but the next sentence forced me to open them. My brother, he's not innocent either. He slept with some girl on a trip to Vegas a few months ago. I was stunned. So no one in this wedding was clean. One had been cheating for 2 years. The other had a one-night stand just months before the ceremony. A baby whose father is still unknown. And there I was, standing in the ashes, trying to figure out who lit the first match. When the call with my ex ended, I sat motionless on the couch, the soft yellow light casting long shadows on the white wall of my living room, now looking more like a stage, set for the rawest scene of my life. I had stayed silent long enough. I had given them a chance to face each other, to fix what they broke. But they, all of them, chose instead to bury the truth under layers of beauty. A white wedding dress, a lavish celebration, and fake smiles in front of a camera. Fine. If no one had the courage to say it, then I would be the one to end this play. I texted my sister and her fiancé the same message. I want both of you to come to my place tonight. Not to point fingers, but to put an end to all the lies. When they arrived, no one said a word. My sister wore a cream-colored sweater, her face calm like she was walking into a casual reunion. Her fiancé, dark circles under his eyes, shirt wrinkled, looked like he hadn't slept all night. I invited them to sit on the sofa, poured 2 glasses of water. No wine, no tea. Every emotion in this room needed to stay sharp, undiluted. I stood in front of them, my voice steady, though my heart was pounding. I didn't bring you here to judge anyone. I just want to lay out everything I know, from both sides, so neither of you has to keep pretending. They stayed silent, so I began. You've been cheating for 2 years with the groomsman, and you never intended to tell him. I saw the fiancé clench his fists, but he said nothing. You're not innocent either. You slept with another woman during the Vegas trip, and you never planned on saying that either. My sister looked at him, stunned. For the first time in my life, I saw her face turn pale, not from guilt, but from being hurt by the one thing she thought she could control. I continued. You also slept with his brother, back when I was still dating him. That year, when he confessed he had cheated on me, you were the other woman. Silence. Not a single breath. The air in the room felt sucked out. I took a deep breath and said the last part. And finally, you're pregnant. But you don't know who the father is. You told me. You're not sure. I took a step back. Not because I was scared, because I had said it all. There was nothing left to hold in. Nothing left to hold up. I don't want to interfere in your lives, but if the two of you still plan to get married without speaking these truths out loud, just know this. Marriage is not a curtain that hides the truth. It only lets it rot behind the scenes, slowly but surely. I turned away, left them there, in that room full of echoes. I didn't need to hear them argue. I didn't need their apologies. I didn't need to watch anyone fall apart. I had done my part. The rest, it's on them. I had mentally prepared myself for the fallout after that confrontation. I knew I'd probably lose what people call family, if that word even still applied. But what I didn't expect was the shamelessness, the blame shifting, the complete detachment from reality that would take everything even further. 2 days later, my sister called. Not to apologize, not to say, you were right. The first words out of her mouth were, you're not allowed at the wedding. I didn't respond. I didn't flinch. I'd already seen it coming. She kept talking, her voice cold. devoid of any trace of the sister I once looked up to. You didn't just ruin a relationship, you destroyed the family I've been trying to build. Mom said, if you have any conscience left, you'll take back what you told him. Say you misunderstood or made it up. I let out a dry, short laugh. And your baby? Who's the father? That doesn't matter, she snapped. All that matters is you lie one more time, and we can fix everything. I hung up. Not another word. I used to think speaking the truth made me strong. But in that moment, I realized real strength is when the whole world turns against you and you still refuse to bow your head. A few hours later, my mother called. She opened with a tirade. So now you think you're justice, huh? Do you have any idea how much pain you've caused your sister? She's pregnant and under stress. What if something happens to the baby? That'll be on you. It felt like a stranger was speaking to me. That wasn't my mother. That was a woman desperately clinging to a fake image of her daughter, stomping on the truth to preserve it. She went on, you started this mess. Now take responsibility, get a DNA test, find out who the father is. Restore peace to this family. I almost laughed out loud. You think I'm what, Mom? A walking lab? I didn't create that pregnancy. I ended the call. For good. No tears, no shaking hands. Then came one last message from my sister. I'm still getting married. I'll still have a good life. And I don't need you ruining anything else. Don't ever show up in my life again. I deleted the message. But I couldn't delete the quiet ache in my chest. Not because I was cut off, but because I saw so clearly they chose pretending over healing. The wedding happened, lavish, picture perfect, flooded all over social media. Everyone wished them well. No one knew, or maybe no one wanted to know, that the groom once slept with someone else, that the bride was pregnant and didn't know who the father was, that the best man had been her secret lover for 2 years, that the happy family photo was just a thin coat of paint covering a rotting wall underneath. I didn't go, and I don't regret it. Not for a second. And when friends asked, why not just make peace and move on? I simply said, because staying silent in the face of wrongdoing is a greater sin than speaking out. If justice is the villain in my family's story, then I'll gladly play that part. If you've stayed with me until the very end of this story, thank you. Truly. Not because this story is more extraordinary than anything you've ever heard, but because you took the time to witness something that many of us often choose to ignore, that sometimes being honest, living truthfully, and daring to speak up can make you look like the bad guy in the eyes of the very people you love most. We grow up believing that family is supposed to be the safest place. But if that place demands your silence in the face of wrongdoing, asks you to hide what's rotten beneath the surface, and trades truth for a false sense of peace, then you have every right to walk away. The younger sister in this story is far from perfect. She's hurt, she's angry, she's overwhelmed. But she chose to stand on the side of truth, even if it cost her a piece of her own flesh and blood. And if you've ever been called a troublemaker just because you dared to speak out, if you've ever been blamed for not closing your eyes to what was wrong, if you've ever been shut out of a wedding, a family gathering, or even someone's entire life, remember this: you are not wrong, you are not cruel, you are simply learning to choose your conscience over compromise. And sometimes that is the bravest thing a human being can do. That's the end of today's story. If it moved you in any way, please leave a comment, hit like, share, and subscribe to help us keep telling more stories like this. Thank you for listening. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.